Right. So the next thing I want to talk about is why we start with the signature, homemaker, and the essential set. So obviously, our video is the same for every single customer. Well, why do we do the same presentation for every customer, even though every customer is not in the exact same financial situation? Well, here's the first reason. We don't want to prejudge the customers. So realize that you shouldn't want to prejudge your customers either. You never know what somebody's spending habits are. So do you know somebody who's like that jeans and t-shirt person, but they're actually really wealthy? And you might know somebody that wears a suit all the time, or tries to wear super nice clothes or certain brand names, but they spend every dollar that they have on trying to get that clothing and impress other people. So you never know what somebody's spending values are or saving values are. I've sold homemakers in tiny houses, tiny apartments. People actually sold a homemaker set to a person in their pajamas. That was fun. I've sold single pieces in large homes as well, and large apartments as well. So, it's not fair to prejudge your customer. Also, do people value family time? They sure do. And people spend a lot of money to bring the family together. And Cutco obviously brings the family together. Also, keep in mind that customers won't say, gee, do you have something bigger? Because I'd really like to spend more money than what's on the screen right now. Now, they might say, do you have anything smaller? And by starting big and then dropping down from there, we actually let the customer decide. And we do it without any pressure. And the goal is to help the customer get what they want, not what we want or what we think they want. Another reason we start with these three sets is because it's the best value for the average family. All of our sets have a built-in discount. So to give you an idea, a homemaker set has a built-in discount of $11 per knife. $11 per knife. And you do the math on that, there's 18 knives in the homemaker set, multiply it out, you're talking over a $200 savings. Now, the ultimate set and the signature set have a built-in discount of $17 per knife. $17 per knife. So if they just picked out a few pieces, they wouldn't appreciate the value. Not only do they get a discount, but if they get the set, we can also toss in some free stuff. So they have a built-in discount plus free stuff. And obviously, who doesn't love free stuff? Everybody loves free stuff. So I'm not sure about you, but when I was new, this got me really excited to sell sets to friends and family, because if there was anyone that I wanted to help save money, it was them. It was my friends, my family, even some of my acquaintances. I wanted to help them get a great deal. I loved being able to give them free stuff. And something we'll talk about today is how to give them even a little bit more for free. So when I sat down with my mom, it was my first weekend. So I called my manager and I was like, hey, my mom's thinking about the homemaker set, but she really wants to get, the cheese knife, and she really likes the ice cream scoop. And is there anything that we can do for her? And I was talking with my manager. So if you ever have somebody interested in something, by the way, but they're not 100% pulling the trigger, you know what, let me just check in with my manager, see if I can get you a better deal. And so I called and I was talking with my manager, and he's like, tell you what, since it's your mom, if she gets the homemaker set, we will throw in the super shears and the ice cream scoop and the cheese knife for free. And don't forget, the homemaker set also comes with a free cutting board, sharpener to touch up the straight edges. And so started doing the math, and I was like, oh my gosh, my mom's going to save $450. I mean, that's almost half of what the set costs, So it was exciting to be able to offer her such a great deal. And then obviously, so she went with the deal. Now she's had her Cutco. I've been here just about a decade. And she's had her Cutco for all that time. She absolutely loves her Cutco. Later on, I was in a push period, a contest to win a trip somewhere. And she actually ended up upgrading to the Ultimate because she loved her Cutco that much. So very exciting. Now, next reason is these sets are going to give your customers the right tool for the right job. And that's going to be a lot safer for them. So when a customer gets a set, the right tool for the right job, makes cooking faster, safer, easier, more efficient. You would never want grandma to peel an apple with a little a big chef knife. You also wouldn't want grandma to cut a watermelon with a little bitty baby paring knife. And so it's important to have the right tool for the tasks at hand. I'm not sure about you, but when I was new, I was really excited to sell sets to friends and family because I wanted them to be safe. They also have a place to store their knives properly, so they're not reaching in the drawer for, a sharp objects. Now, the next thing is you got to show value. So if they just picked out a few pieces, realize that they wouldn't really appreciate the value. They have to see all of the options to understand. It's kind of like buying a car. When I picked out my BMW, I had to look at the 2 Series, the 3 Series, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7. That really helped me to understand all the options that were out there and what each one had to offer and why they cost different prices. And so if we just told them at the beginning of the presentation, hey, it's $150 for one chef knife, they wouldn't get it. But as we go down through all of the sets and then we get to the individual pieces, it really puts it into perspective for the customer and allows them to really compare and contrast their options. And by the way, that $150 or $136 chef knife, when it's in a set, is actually a lot less money. And so you got to realize that as well. Now, you also want to respect your customers. Even if you don't think they have the money, you should ask everybody to buy it. Even if they react like, wow, that's a lot of money to the video, or they seem like they're not going to have enough, you should ask everybody to buy it. Sometimes you'll be surprised at who gets the larger sets. I remember Billy Gillette, one of my representatives at my first ever branch office in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Billy, so not the wealthiest area, did a presentation for an old single woman who lived in a trailer. And luckily we had already been to advanced training and we had this talk, and I got a call from Billy during this presentation and he's like, hey, do we take cash? And I was like, yeah, we take cash, but they have to pay in full. And he was like, okay, cool. So shows up, it was the day of the team meeting. So he shows up for the team meeting later that night and he hands me, $1,200 or whatever, it would have been for a homemaker set. And so we counted it out in front of the team, and I'm like 102, and it was cool. It was like the most money he probably ever held in cash, which was pretty fun. It's probably hard to remember to bring that to the office, but anyway, so it was really exciting. I had him tell the story, and he's like, I did the presentation, I did what David said, I didn't prejudge, I went through the whole thing. I asked her if she wanted to buy the homemaker set, and she said yes. Do you guys take cash? So that's when I called my manager. I found out, and yes, we do take cash, and it was amazing. She went back to her bedroom, and she must have had a safe back there or something, but she came out with this envelope filled with hundreds, and she just counted them out on the table for me and handed them to me. And I never thought in a million years this woman would buy a homemaker set. He was, telling the whole story, but she did, and she paid in full, and she paid cash. And so you never know what somebody's values are, and you want to respect your customer. You don't want to prejudge your customer. Also, people feel good when they're asked to buy something, even if they can't afford it. I'll give you an example. I remember going to the Rolex store when I was a kid, when I was 18, I guess not a kid, a teenager. And I walked in and I was looking, staring, checking everything out. And the salesperson was like, hey, would you like me to take anything out of the case for you? And instantly I was like filled with butterflies, because I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, she actually thinks I can afford this stuff, or at least she's just really nice, right? So I was like, yeah, you can take that one out of the case. And the price tag was like $36,000. And she's like, would you like to try it on? I'm like, not only is she going to take this $36,000 watch out of the case for me, but she's going to let me try it on. I mean, I felt extravagant, right? It was incredible. So your customers aren't going to mind if you ask them, hey, so, which of those 3 sets did you like the best? Great. Well, hey, do you want to try that one out? And you go through all of page 5 with them, ask them if they want to buy that set every single time, even if you don't think that they could afford it, because they're going to be excited that you at least asked. By the way, if the video finished and you didn't ask and you just went to the smaller sets because you thought that's what they could afford, I mean, just think about the perspective to the customer. It's like you're judging their bank account, you're judging them, and you're in their house. Like, you don't want to do that. So that's not good. You're right at their kitchen table, hopefully, So it's the most respectful thing to do. And we want to do the same presentation for everybody. Next, you want to ask for the order with confidence every single time. Does a Mercedes dealer always drive a Mercedes? Absolutely not. In most cases, no. They have like a piece of junk beater in the back, but they talk to customers at their level. And what do all their customers drive? Mercedes. So you have to ask with confidence in order to make them feel comfortable. If you ask for the price lacking confidence, or you cover the prices with no confidence, you're going to make them feel uncomfortable. And people don't like to buy when they feel uncomfortable or concerned. Let me give you an example. If you went into Louis Vuitton and you saw a gorgeous purse that you really liked or thought your girlfriend would really like, and you asked the salesperson, how much is that one? And they said, ooh, that one? Well, yeah, that one. Ooh, that would be $3,400. Would you like to get it? How are you going to feel? Nervous, awkward, uncomfortable. Are you going to buy from them? No matter how much you like the purse. So you got to ask as if they're going to say yes every single time. That's a key. Underline that. Ask as if they're going to say yes. That way they actually feel comfortable doing so. Now, what do you do when they say no? Well, hey, no big deal. You drop down to the smaller sets, one step at a time. Of course, not everybody's going to buy one of those 3 sets, but by showing them on every presentation, we're going to increase our opportunity to sell one of those 3 sets. And if everybody said yes to one of those, we wouldn't need to make smaller sets, right? Also, remember that our average order is around $250 for new representatives, not $1,000. Now, our real divisional average order is usually right around the $350 to $400 range, but of course that includes our experienced representatives. So we'll stick to $250 for this. So of course not everybody gets one of those 3 larger sets. Now, how many out of 10 buy one of those 3 sets? What should you experience? Well, an average rep should experience 1 out of every 10 would be a homemaker, signature, or ultimate set. So $1,000 plus sale, 1 out of 10. An above average rep, 2 out of 10 would be a homemaker, signature, or ultimate set. And even the best representatives in the company, the best reps in the company, people over $1 million, $2 million, $3 million in career personal sales, it's 3 out of 10 for a homemaker, signature, ultimate, $1,000 plus size order. Why do those top reps sell more, by the way? Well, confidence, experience, and networking. You see, they're more confident in themselves and the product. Realize whoever has more confidence is always going to influence the other person. Experience. The more appointments that you do, the better your presentation gets, the more knowledgeable you become about the product. And networking. The longer that you work here, the more time you have to network your way into better markets to show the product. Realize that most people say no to those 3 sets. No big deal. We've got plenty of other options for them. So we show the same sets to everybody though, because most people find, and we show all those sets to everybody because most people are going to find a set that they like, and that's going to save them a lot of money. Now, here's the next thing I want you to realize is that no's are good. No's are good. I know that no one likes to hear no, but in our business, every no leads to a yes. You'll get way more no's in Cutco than yeses, but that's because there's only 1 yes per demo. You could get several no's. No to the homemaker, no to the galley, no to the 5-piece custom set. And then they do a yes to a buy 3, get 1 free. Are they saying no to you, or are they saying no to just those 3 options? Just those 3 options. Are they saying no to Cutco, or are they just saying no to those first 3 sets in the video? Just those first 3 sets in the video. So realize the galley set is our 2nd most popular set. We sold 29,000 homemaker sets last year and some change, and we sold a little over 13,000 galley sets last year. That was our 2nd most popular set. So if we didn't drop down, nobody would see it. So of course, nobody would buy it. Some people take on the first pitch, by the way. Some people say no even when they want to say yes. Just like in baseball, how some players never swing on the first pitch and then they always swing on the second pitch. Some customers say no, and then it's really easy for them to say yes to the next option. In baseball, realize that what's the best thing that can happen? Well, a grand slam, right? That's kind of like a Cutco kitchen, you know? So that'd be if they bought the knives, the cookware, the flatware, right? They get it all. Now, what do you think the goal of every batter is when they go up to base? They want to hit a home run. And that's like selling a homemaker set, right? Or a signature set. Of course, that's what they try to hit every single time. Sometimes they swing for a home run, though, and they get the next best thing, a triple. Now, what I want you to know is that nobody goes up to bat and purposefully hits a triple, right? They're not like, I'm going to hit it right there, so I only get to go around 3 bases. They swing for the fences every single time, and the ball falls a little short, right? So that'd be like going into a presentation trying to only sell an essential set. It's like that it doesn't work that way. You're only going to get them excited about 4 or 5 of the pieces, right? So you got to swing for the fences every time. Get them excited about the homemaker, the signature every single time. So that way they're excited about Cutco. And as you drop down and you get into their price range or you find the set with the pieces they like, it's an easy yes for that one. Now, sometimes they swing for the fences and it's a double, right? Or a single, like an Essentials or a Studio. You know, sometimes they swing for the fences and it's a sacrifice fly, a kitchenette set, or a single piece. That's like walking, right? It's like they're not trying to, walk, but it still helps the team. Just like when you sell a single piece, right? Your manager, we don't care what you sell. You could sell anything. We're going to be excited for you every single time because you're contributing. I have won and lost trophies in 2-week-long competitions with 10s or sometimes even 50, 60, 70 representatives on my team at a time, and we've won and lost trophies, first, second place, by within $100. So if 2 more people on my team sold 1 more knife, if 5 more people on my team sold a cutting board, if everybody on my team sold a shears holster for $4, we would have won or ended up losing that trophy competition. So realize that in our office, the badge of honor is closing percentage, and in our division and in our company, that's the badge of honor. You could sell an ultimate, a paring knife, a cutting board, even a shears holster, and we'll celebrate you every time. Just like we did earlier today as we did recognition. Just like we will at our team meeting, everybody over $1 in sales for the week gets recognized. Now, if you sell over 1,000, you get recognized a little more. So don't go over $1, right? Sometimes you're going to have a no sale. Everybody does. Even the best baseball players strike out, don't they? They actually strike out half the time, the best ones. Most of them strike out 2/3 of the time, and they're in the pros, right? So for someone who really takes this to heart, and sells at least a cutting board or a gadget on each of their demos, you can go after our divisional record by Lauren Argento. I mentioned it earlier. So here's the exact number, 132 sales in a row before she had her first no sale. Maybe you've already had your first no sale. Well, could you go starting today 132 in a row, 133 to beat the record? Just a shears holster. They can all afford $4. Now, this next topic I'm going to teach you is one of the great impacts on your closing percentage. It's the last step. Before you show anything smaller to the customer, what you want to do is you want to handle your customers' knee-jerk reactions, your customers' fears, objections, concerns. The objectives of these responses is to see if they just need a little bit more information or a bit more time before they say yes to what you just showed them. Sometimes a customer just says whatever comes to mind so that they can take a little bit more time to think about it. It's no different than when you're shopping. Did you ever walk into a retail store and the salesperson asks, "Can I help you? Can I help you find anything?" Something of that nature. And what do you usually say? No, I'm fine. Nah, I'm just looking, right? And even if you were planning on buying something, you still say that most of the time. Even if you need help, you've never been in the store before, you still say that most of the time. Other times, they just forgot something from the presentation. And I'll give you an example of that in a few minutes. It's important to note that when a customer gives these objections, what they're saying is that they're interested. If they were completely not interested, they would just say no, or I'm not interested. So if they don't say no, thank you, or I'm not interested, what does that mean? It means that they are interested. And if they are interested, my job is to help them get what they want. So what I want to do is give you some tips to help you to handle every customer concern and objection that your customers might have. And there's only 5 reasons that a customer might give you for not wanting to buy Cutco: their hesitations, their knee-jerk reactions. So did anybody hear something like, Cutco's great, but my knives are fine for now, or my knives are fine for what we do, or knives just aren't a priority for us right now? Well, if you heard any of those things, what those customers are telling you is that they think that their knives are fine. That's the concern. That's the objection. And of course, we know otherwise. We know nothing's as good as Cutco, but we need to show that to them and help them understand that. So before we dive into how to handle all of the objections, let's identify the rest. So there's 4 other reasons why customers might give you for not wanting to buy Cutco. 4 other hesitations, 4 other knee-jerk reactions. What are some of the other reasons that you heard from customers this weekend? Well, you can see one on the screen. They might have said it's too expensive, right? It's too expensive, or wow, that's a lot of money for knives. You might have heard, I need to think about it, or talk it over with my spouse. You might have heard, I don't need all those pieces, like the homemaker set's too big for us. We'll just get the essentials, or I don't think we need 5. Can we just buy a couple of them, right? And you might have heard, I can't afford it. I can't afford it. That's a lot. That doesn't fit in our budget right now. So that's it. Those are the only 5 reasons why someone would ever give you or hesitate to buy Cutco. And once you get good at handling these, you're going to be at that 80 or 90% closing ratio that we talked about. The best part about these objectives is that your customers don't have a weekly get together where they're like, how can we stump those Cutco guys? And how can we stump those Cutco girls this week? But as a company, we have sat down, we've put together our knowledge, our experience, and we've developed answers to all of these customer concerns. And today we're going to teach you how to deal with these customer concerns using what's called the objection cycle. And if you study and implement this, you're going to see your average order and your closing ratio greatly increase. So we're going to dive into how to handle these. Your manager will have a handout for you with the objection cycle. And the first 2 that you're going to see are can't afford it and too expensive. Now, I want you to just think for a second, what is the difference between I can't afford it and it's too expensive? Well, if you said I can't afford it means that they don't have enough money, and it's too expensive means that they don't believe it's worth the money. It's not worth the price that we're asking to spend. You were correct. And we're going to talk about too expensive first. So when someone says that Cutco's too expensive, or wow, that's a lot of money for knives, what they're saying is that they think Cutco's overpriced. Now, of course, we know that it's worth it, but we have to explain and show that to the customer and help them believe it, right? Cutco should cost more, right? We talked about it earlier. If Cutco were sold in stores, it would cost more, 2, 3, 4 times as much. So for some of you, the reason that you heard this objection is because you yourself don't believe that Cutco's worth the price we're asking them to spend. You can say all the right words, but remember what I said earlier. It's not about what you say. It's about how you say it, your body language. Customers can feel your conviction. Imagine seeing a movie that you hated and having to convince somebody to go and see it. It'd be almost impossible. Even if you planned out all of the right words ahead of time, even if somebody gave you a script of what to say, it'd be really challenging because they wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't buy it, right? Because you don't actually believe it or buy what you're saying. Now, imagine you have to convince somebody to go and see your favorite movie. You wouldn't even have to prepare. You could just say whatever comes to mind. It wouldn't even have to be smooth or sound good. They would just feel your excitement, and that would be enough to lead them to go and see it. So you need to believe it yourself. You can't confuse your bank account with your customer's bank account. It may be crazy for you to spend a couple $1,000s on kitchen knives in your situation, right? But it's not crazy for somebody who matches the criteria. $1,273, $257 a month plus tax, $65-ish a week, $10 a day. That's nothing. $10 a day. It's not a question of whether or not they can afford it. It's whether or not they believe it's worth it. Think back to the Wusthof and Shun exercise versus Cutco exercise that we did on the second day of training. People are willing to spend 2 to 3 times as much to buy something that's nowhere near as good as Cutco. So don't be afraid to really emphasize the value of Cutco. Let me give you a power sentence that you can add into your training manual. I would add this on page 4, next to where you explain the double D edge. Page 4, where you explain the double D edge. Cutco is the only knife company in the world who offers this edge design. Cutco is the only knife company in the world who offers this edge design because it's so expensive to manufacture. Because it's so expensive to manufacture. But everyone who owns them will tell you they were worth the investment. But everyone who owns them or owns Cutco will tell you they were worth the investment. So the whole thing again, Cutco is the only knife company in the world who offers this edge design because it's so expensive to manufacture. But everyone who owns them will tell you that they're worth the investment. This is going to help your customer to understand the value of Cutco. And you can do the same thing all throughout the actual presentation itself. When we talk about the thermoresin handle, right? When we talk about the handle design, right? When we talk about the steel that we use, all of those different things. Hey, it's a lot more expensive to use thermoresin than like a cheap wood or plastic that you're used to, but it's worth it because of everything you heard in the video. It's worth it because it's gonna last, right? Now, let's talk about somebody who says, I can't afford it. What I want you to understand, and this is the most important thing, is that 90% of the people in your area can afford Cutco. And the other 10% are either unemployed, retired, living on Social Security or welfare. Now, I'm sure they're great people, but it's just not fair to show them Cutco. It's not fair to them because they're going to want it if you do a great presentation and not be able to afford it. And it's not fair to you. So here's what you got to think about. How much is an average order on a 3-month payment plan? Well, $250 over 3 months, that's $84 a month. That's $21 a week. If someone really can't afford $21 a week, a movie ticket, and maybe a popcorn, probably not anymore, a t-shirt at Walmart, 2 for $20 at Applebee's, no tip, no drinks, right? If they can't afford any of those things, Starbucks Monday through Friday, right? Not even. If they can't afford any of those things, then either they're the wrong people to see, so stop seeing them, or you didn't get them excited enough about the product to want to spend their money on it, or you didn't cover the prices confidently. And that's it. I have another question for you. What do people use to pay for most of the things that they buy? A credit card. So even if they don't have the $257 plus tax, but they do have a credit card, they can definitely afford it. Who in here has a credit card? You can look around. If you have a credit card, those of you who don't have one, let me just explain how they work really quick. So let's say I have a credit card with an $8,000 spending limit, which was the national average on a credit card last year in America. What that means is that I could have $0 in my bank account and I could spend $8,000 today. Now, by the way, do most people have one credit card? Probably not, right? Most people have 2, 3, 4. I have a business credit card and I think 5 personal credit cards, 2 for airlines, because I get rewards for those airlines that I fly on, 1 for just groceries, and we get a better cash back for groceries on that card, and then we got 1 for like our day-to-day bills and expenses because we get a overall good cash back on that one. So, and then I have 1 that I signed up for in college that we still have. So most people, 2, 3, 4, 5 credit cards. So that means that everyone you see who has a credit card could afford every single thing in your blue book multiple times over. For those of you who do have a credit card, if you charged $280 to your card, so like the Homemaker Plus tax, something like that, do you know how much your monthly payment would go up for that portion of your card? About $9. They're all a little bit different, but the average credit card company last year charged 3% of your balance each month as the minimum payment. That means if a customer charged even the entire Homemaker set in full, swipe, $1,273, right? $1,273. 3% is what their minimum payment would go up. So that would be about $38. So can they afford $38 a month? Let me ask you, who thinks the people on their list could afford $38 a month? All of them, exactly. And how many of them do you think have credit cards? Probably just about all of them. So of course, you're not going to be selling a lot of sets of course, you're going to sell a lot of sets as long as you increase your confidence. And by the way, how many of the things on their credit card do you think they regret buying? And do you think they're ever going to regret buying Cutco? Buy once, use every day, never replace. Think about all the other things on their card. Most of them they probably don't even remember buying. A lot of them are probably just entertainment or food, things that lasted for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 3 hours for a Broadway show or something like that, right? For hundreds of dollars. And their Cutco is going to last them forever. So to handle this objection before it comes up, your customers have to have a desire to own the product, right? It's all about, they have to really want Cutco. It's all about your confidence and enthusiasm. Realize that a sale is made on every single presentation. Either you sell them on all of the reasons why they should get Cutco, or they sell you on all the reasons why they're not going to get Cutco. So when it comes to people who are over 30 and working full time, I want you to realize that they're going to choose whether or not they can afford Cutco. It's not a question of whether or not they can afford it. It's whether or not they want it bad enough to spend their hard-earned money on it. So why do some people say I can't afford it, even when we know that they definitely can? Well, most of the time it's because they're a nice person and they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to be that bad guy or that bad girl or man or woman that just says, yeah, we're not interested. It'd be really hard for your aunt or uncle or cousin or mom or dad or somebody that you know to say that to you, even just a generally nice person. And obviously, if they agreed to have us over to their house for a presentation, they're probably a pretty nice person. Realize it's just easier for those people and people in general to say, I can't afford it. They feel like they're not letting you down, right? They feel like they're being nice. And I can speak from experience. I remember doing a presentation, pulled up to the house, really nice house, great car in the driveway. I remember going in, I was building rapport and hanging out with the kids, and their kids had like every toy you could imagine. And I was like, these people are loaded, right? And I haven't seen too many of these people, but I remember seeing that person and I was like, this is awesome. This is going to be easy, right? And I got through the presentation after hanging out with their kids for like a half an hour and playing. And At the end, I was like, so would you like to try out that set today along with your free gift? And, they looked at each other and they looked at me and kind of shook their heads. And it was like, yeah, just not really in the cards right now. I don't think we can afford it. It's really not in our budget. I don't remember the exact words. This was many years ago, but I was just like shocked, awed, surprised, right? I was like, okay, no big deal. In my head, I'm thinking like, all right, at least a galley set, right? Drop down to the galley, same thing. Drop down to the essentials, studio, the smaller starter sets, the kitchenette, right? Come on, kitchenette. It's like less than $100 a month. Can't afford it. Drop down to the customized options and, offer to buy 3, get 1 free. And then finally I was like, all right, well, hey, why don't you guys just get 1 knife to reserve your first call special? Did that whole little deal. And still not even a trimmer. And at this point, I'm just like frustrated. I'm getting like, probably visibly upset. Hopefully not, right? I don't remember, but I just remember leaving the presentation, calling my manager, and I was like, Matt, I don't understand what happened. And that's when he explained everything that I just said over the last little bit to you. He said, it's not that they couldn't afford it. It's just that they didn't want it bad enough to afford it. And that's when I realized, I took some shortcuts. So I didn't cut food on that presentation. I thought it was a guaranteed sale, right? I just prejudged my customer. I was like, they got plenty of money. Why wouldn't they buy it? Because I spent so much time hanging out with their kids and building rapport, which was a great idea, by the way, but I had another presentation to get to. And so I probably took a few shortcuts, maybe even skipped a few things. And I remember getting to the end and looking back, and I was like, I didn't bring my A game. I did not do the best presentation possible. Not cutting food. I mean, if you don't cut food and you get a no sale, your manager should say, I told you so. That's like the only time. I'm saying it now, right? Like they don't cut rope and leather in their kitchen or pennies. They cut food. So you got to show them the value and how much better it is. So cut food. So if you heard this from a friend or family member, I'm not saying that they're lying to you. In the moment, they may actually think they can't afford it. But if that's the case, our job is to show them how they can. Because I can't afford it means I want to afford it. I just don't think I have enough money. So if that's the case, here are some ideas. Emphasize the 5-month payment plan. Interest-free. People love those words. Break it down weekly. Hey, I know $257 sounds like a lot, but when you split it up over 5 months, if you broke that down weekly, you're talking about $65 a week, Aunt Betty. $65 a week is like an extra tank of gas. $65 a week is like a dinner for 2, So for an extra tank of gas per week, you'll never have to buy another set of knives again. And 5 months from now, you'll be so thankful that you invested in the Cutco. Think about how much less you're going to go out to eat, right? So it shows them how affordable it is. Break it down daily if you have to. Hey, Mrs. Jones, what's something that you spend like $10 a day on? Morning trip to get coffee or a bagel or something like that, right? It's like, yeah, so if you could just curb that one habit for a few months, this set will literally pay for itself and you're going to have it for 50 years. So the next objection that I want to talk about is I don't need all of those pieces. Realize that the Homemaker set is the #1 selling set for a reason. It was designed by a group of home economists to be the set that would have the least amount of tools to do 100% of the jobs in the kitchen as efficiently as possible for an average family. We can review that on your sheet in a little bit. Then you have some customers that say, I need to talk it over with my spouse, or I need to think about it. Anybody hear that this weekend? Well, the best way to handle I need to talk to my spouse objection is to make sure that they're both actually there for the presentation. So that way they can just talk about it right there and make a decision, right? If you mess that up or you book the presentation for just one person and then the other person ends up skipping out, make sure that you emphasize the 15-day trial, So that's important as well. One small change we're going to make to page 4. says you can try it out. Right after you can try it out on page 4, I want you to add in with your spouse. You can try it out with your spouse. Little caret there. And after that, it says if you're not completely satisfied, and you would just say if you're not both completely satisfied, if you're not both completely satisfied, you can try it out with your spouse. And after 15 days, if you're not both completely satisfied, you can also make it personalized. So a little more advanced, but if I'm sitting down with Mrs. Jones, I'd say, hey, Mrs. Jones, I know Mr. Jones couldn't join us for the presentation. This is going to allow you guys to try the products out together before making a final decision as to whether or not you want to keep them, right? So you can make it personalized. So to handle that objection and to handle the person who wants to think about it, after that, you could add, this is perfect for people who want to think about their investment. This is perfect for people who want to think about their investment. If you nail these two things, you're rarely going to even hear that objection. But when you do hear the objection, you've got how to handle it right here on your paper. And the last one is my knives are fine, right? So when you hear my knives are fine, it means that the customer either thinks their knives are good enough or they don't feel the urgency to get Cutco now. Most of the time, people who say this have terrible knives. They've got terrible knives. They just took 20, 30, 40 strokes to cut the rope. And in your head, you're like, your knives suck, Mrs. Jones. Like, what are you talking about, right? But we don't want to say that to the customer. So how to respond to that one, you want to say what's on your sheet. And now that you've had a chance to learn each of these, we're going to take some time to role play. So I want you to go ahead and partner up with somebody. Your manager can orchestrate that. And we're going to go ahead and role play each of the objections. You want to do all of the steps every single time. So you'll do steps 1 and 2, and then offer the solution and step 4. So you're doing all 4 steps each time. So go ahead and role play that with a partner, and we will continue here shortly.